Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. This is episode 2 of the product rule series, and today we're going to be doing the second example. The first episode, which is basically the introduction to product series, it's a detailed introduction, and I did a lot of detailed explanation and analysis of how to identify that a question or a function would require the product rule in order for you to differentiate it. I did a step-by-step breakdown of a question, and I did two different methods, like the direct method as well as the side substitution method. You should watch video 1. And if you're just practicing, you can keep watching you can just jump to video 2, which is this one right now, and watch the rest of the videos, inshallah. So in this video, we have a question: y of x equals 2x e to the x. So now, one thing I want to mention is this. It's important for you to know that in order for you to be able to apply the product rule, you have to see that the function in question, the entire function in question, is basically two sub-functions together that are multiplied by each other. So in this particular case, x serves as a function by itself. E of x serves as a function by itself. 2 here is just a constant. We can pretend 2 is there. We can pretend 2 is just simply a constant, or some people just decide to make 2x the other function. So you can consider 2x the subfunction 1, right? Subfunction 1, and e to the x subfunction 2. Or you can just ignore the 2, just mentally ignore it. Don't ignore the fact that the 2 is there in the calculation and the analysis. You just ignore it in your head, and then e to the x, right? So you take this one as subfunction 1, ignoring the 2, and then e to the x here as subfunction 2. So you only ignore it mentally, but you don't actually ignore it in your calculation. So I just wanted to mention that. So I'm going to use the first style here, where I'm going to call 2x as subfunction 1 and e to the x as subfunction 2. I think it's pretty easy that way. I think it's a very smart way to do problems, because then people will be wondering, what do I do with the 2? The truth is that the 2 still stays there. But I think with more solving and calculation problems that you get from product rule differentiation, you're going to realize that it's pretty easy. So the first thing you do now is, first of all, you've identified that we're going to use the product rule. How do you identify? You have two different functions multiplied by each other, and if you watch my video 1, I explained to you that these two functions multiplied by each other. So for it, let me show you what I did in the first video. So I did y of x equals f of x right here multiplied by g of x. So what this one is saying now is, this is subfunction 1 here, subfunction 1, and this is subfunction 2 here. But they're going to be written in such a way that the two of them are multiplied by each other. So the honest thing is that these two, subfunction 1 and subfunction 2 combined, is actually a function that we're supposed to differentiate. We're supposed to differentiate both subfunctions actually as a combined function. But in order for us to be able to know what rule we're supposed to use to differentiate for such function, then we're going to look at the function itself. And in this case, we can break this same function into subfunction 1 and subfunction 2. And now we see that they are multiplied by each other. And what we know from elementary school or primary school, high school, is that product in math always means a multiplication, right? Product rule, if I say find the product of 5 and 8, is the same thing as saying multiply 5 times 8, right? Or multiply 5 by 8, and that will give you 40. So in this case, we're going to do the product rule because it's a multiplication. Okay. So that's it. So this is basically it, and in this case we have y equals 2x e to the x. So now this is what you have basically as a breakdown. So we know that it is. So let's go to the next page, and the next page will have hopefully it will be more detailed for you. So y of x equals, we have 2x e to the x, right? Now this is what the product rule looks like. We have before the product, so this is what a function that you're going to apply the product rule looks like. So we're going to have f of x multiplied by g of x, right? Now imagine we're going to apply the product rule. We have differentiation of the function with respect to x, or with respect to the variable. In this case, the main variable here is x, right? Imagine if the main variable was t, or the main variable was m, or main variable was k. We're gonna differentiate with respect to mk, or s, or whatever variable it is, but in this case is with respect to x. So now we have, when we do this, we differentiate. So y of x, right, equals f of x multiplied by g of x. So we're just differentiating it. So this here is telling you that this is the function, and this is the first step in differentiating the function. So now this is the next thing you do. So now that we know that, this is the next thing that is gonna happen. So we have d of dx, y of x equals f of x multiplied by g of x equals, so we do the derivative. This is how you do it. So we're gonna do the derivative of the first function multiplied by just the second function. We put all of that in bracket. So this is going to be f prime of x, okay, multiplied by g of x. So basically we're doing the derivative of what? The first function, which is this one, multiplied by just the second function. And then we do that in bracket plus the derivative of the second function, right, multiplied by just the first function, f of x. So that is it. So at the end of the day, we end up with f prime of x multiplied by g of x, all that in bracket, plus open bracket g prime of x. So it's just basically the area of the first function multiplied by the second function, all that in bracket, plus the area of the second function multiplied by the first function, and you add them together. So you have d over dx here of this is basically, so that is now that this is basically what the product rule differentiation looks like here. Product rule, which I'm going to call PR. Product rule differentiation, I'm going to call diff. Product rule differentiation step or major step looks like. So this is what it looks like, right? So now we're gonna actually put our actual question. And if you remember what our actual question is 2x e to the x. So we have y of x, we're gonna use red now. So 2x multiplied by e to the x. Remember, 2x by itself is a function and e to the x is a function. So we can either say 2x is a function and then e to x is a function, or we can just say x is a function and e to the x is another function, while 2 is just a constant that can be brought in front. We can do that, but I would decide to use the second one just because I don't want to confuse anybody. Both are basically right. So this is okay here, and we do this as per So now one thing we need to know is this. We're going to now assign what f of x is and g of x is here, just to be helpful for us. So in this case, we're going to call 2x to be f of x I'm going to call e to the x to be g of x. Okay, so 2x is f of x and e to the x is g of x. Okay, so now let's start to substitute, right? So now we're going to do the derivative of 2x prime multiplied by e to the x, okay, plus g prime of x, so the derivative of e to the x, so that's e to the x prime multiplied by just f of x by itself, which is just 2, right? 2x. So when we do that, we now solve. So now, before we actually go ahead and solve, let me explain something that hopefully would help you understand better. So now, you see what I did here? I mentioned that 2 f of x. So now, I'm saying prime. When I say prime in math can simply just mean differentiation. So your teacher can either use the differentiating a function with respect to x, or your teacher can just put all of that or what he wants to differentiate in a bracket or whatever and just call it prime. So in this case, it's the same. When I say 2x prime, is the same thing as saying I'm differentiating 2x subfunction with respect to x. I'm the same thing as saying 2x prime. It's a short form method of doing it. When I say e prime here, e to the x prime is the same thing as saying I'm differentiating e to the x. Sorry, e to the x with respect to x, right? That is it. That's just literally what we're doing. We're just differentiating 2x. We can call it 2x all in bracket prime, or we can just say dx of 2x and dx of e of x. We can do both, but I'm going to use the prime method. So don't be confused when you see this. I would advise you to kind of stick to one. So if I were you, you see what I just did here, that I'm going to kind of put in black right here. You can just even say, oh, I'm doing the differential of y of x, right? 2x multiplied by e to the x, right? Prime. So don't forget, like if you watch video 1, you will see that I explained that whenever you have a dot in calculus, you're not necessarily saying that it's a decimal, except if your teacher or your question shows that it's a decimal. When you see it in between functions, a dot is just trying to tell you multiplication, because usually when we're in elementary school, high school, we tend to use like the multiplication sign as like a cross, like an X sign. But when you're using so much X in calculus, you cannot putting in multiplication is going to cause confusion. So you just use a dot, and that's what majority of professors use. So that is that. So now this is the same thing as saying, oh, 2x prime e to the x, right, plus e to the x prime multiplied by 2x. So that is it, right? That is really it. So this is something I wanted to mention. Both can be fine, but I would advise you to use the second so that you can be consistent. If you're using prime, use prime on the left side and the right side. If you want to use dx, differentiating of a function with respect to x, you can use it here as well. But I would advise you that what I just wrote in black would probably be better for you. So you have consistency, whether you want to use the dx or you want to use the prime style. So we're going to be using the prime style from now on. So I'm just going to rewrite what I just wrote in black in the next page and solve it. So we have y of x equals 2x dot e to the x, all of that prime. So that will be 2x prime e to the x, all of that in bracket, plus e to the x, all of that prime multiplied by 2x. So that is it. Now, so the 2x prime, whenever you differentiate 2x or anything x or anything and a variable, so like a constant and a variable, you're just gonna basically get the constant. So if I'm differentiating, say 5x, I'm gonna get 5. It's basically the power rule. So I'll advise you to review the power rule if you're struggling with this. But this is pretty basic and fundamental in calculus. So please watch the power rule if you're confused, especially if you're doing a review and you haven't done calculus in a long time. So 2x would be, differential of 2x is basically 2. And then you have e to the x here. You just multiply it by e to the x, right? Plus differentiation of 2x is, differential of e to the x. What is differential of e to the x? Is simply e to the x, because that's basically it. Because e itself is a constant that is approximately 2.7 blah 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 blah. So anytime you have a constant and then that constant has a variable, because e to the x here is something as 2.7 blah 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 blah, approximately 2.7 raised to the power x. And that's how it is in calculus. If you have like a constant and then a variable as the power, like this, right? You basically, only in a situation where the variable has no like other power or anything like that. But if you have 2.7 raised to the power x, it's the same thing as just saying 2.7 raised to x raised to the power. This is basically it. So my point is, the derivative of e to the x is basically e to the x. There's no interesting thing that goes on in it. You don't, there's nothing wow about it, to be honest with you. So that's basically e to the x. That will be multiplied by 2x. That's right here. Yay. So you end up with 2e to the x plus 2x. I'm bringing the 2x forward, and then e to the x. So that's good. The next thing you can now do is basically y of x equals 2x to the x, y of x, 2x e to the x, y of x, 2x e to the x. So that would be 2e to the x. So you bring out 2e to the x right here, and then you do 1 plus. When you bring this out, the truth is this actually, if you decide to keep your answer as this, right, this is fine, this is totally fine. But just out of habit, I tend to just bring out the common factor. So in this case, the common factor on both sides of the plus sign is 2e to the x. So I just brought 2e to the x out. When I bring that out, I know that the common factor, basically, if you just, this for this one will be 1 plus. When I bring out 2e to the x from the right side of the plus sign, is going to just be me having x. So this is the answer. Both of them are correct actually. The answer can either be, so basically 2x e to the x prime, the differentiation of this is going to be called, you can either say 2x e to the x plus 2e to the x plus 2x e to the x, or you can just say 2e to the x open bracket 1 plus x. So that's just the answer. I hope this video was very helpful, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for you guys who are doing assignments, who are studying for your finals, who are studying for your exams all over the world. I just wanted to mention that I would like, if any one of you is really good with video editing, is going to be paid, or if you know anyone that is very good with video editing, please contact me in the description. Contact me in my contact me using email, and my email is going to be in the description box. Please do. I just want to be able to make really good videos. I don't want to have to be doing like the whole editing, and there's nothing wrong with that. I've done that in my previous videos, but I know that it takes a lot of time, and I want to be able to produce good content that will be helpful to you guys. So this is the end of this video. Hopefully this was helpful to you. And that's one time I make it easy for you guys, and I wish you guys all the very best. Please watch out for episode 3. Assalamu alaikum.